having a race to see who can be the biggest victim. And so put a bit of personal responsibility back on people to make their own lives as good as they can be. And if, bad things do happen for sure. And we can do what we can about those. But yeah, it does bother me that some of the direction of those sort of ideas in society.
One of the things, that I think is a key to being a man, in just my experience, limited experience, is being able to win over, in like a very masculine environment, is to be able to win over people really quickly, be funny, tell a good story, or do something heroic. That's the kind of seems to be the way. Was there situations, when you're landing in Afghanistan with there's new people, whatever like that, you got to tell a good story or skull the most clients, there's obviously all of those. What sort of things did you have?
Yeah, look, there's definitely an element of that. You always want to, there's always competitiveness. There's always, one-upmanship. There's always a desire to prove yourself to other people there were certainly elements, I think, there were examples of people doing things which in reflection could probably be considered reckless just to, impress the other guys or make them laugh. That's a big part of, especially those small team environments, So look, certainly, a lot of guys who, and I'm not saying that this is the motivation for that, but often, you'll see guys do something heroic, and it was in some examples that they're like baiting the other guys, or it's done in a way, and it's certainly not the only motivation, but that did come across my mind in certain instances where you're like, I certainly don't want to be thought of as any less by not doing something. So you're always looking for those little ways to do it. And certainly even now with, doing things like jiu-jitsu and that, you're always striving to look good in front of other people for sure. But I think the problem comes if that's your only motivation. But I've spoken with, professional people who have been helping me with some things over the years, and it became clear that having other people's respect, other men's respect was important to me, and that I would seeming unconsciously always sort of be striving for that, more so than even being liked. I didn't really care about liked as long as I was respected. Yeah. And that was only something I learned about myself later on, but I'm imagining a lot of guys have a similar mindset, especially if you're in an environment. You know what it's like. You feel it when you step into an environment where it's like an alpha male dominated situation, and I've been in those myself through my career, and then having been involved a few times with professional sporting teams since leaving the military in a training capacity, you step in to these change rooms or to this auditorium, and you feel that energy, right? And you know that they are like a pack of wolves, and if you display any sort of obvious weakness or any sort of chink in the armor, you're going down hard. And that's just nature, I think. And it's important, to have those moments, to have those experiences and recognize them for what they are. And you don't need to do anything outrageous. You just need to be yourself, be confident in who you are, and back yourself in, and you get that respect.
So you've been working a lot in the elite strength and conditioning arena. What was that like for you? Is that something that you're going to continue with, or are you taking a breath? Are you going to think as the next steps? What's coming?
I've been lucky to be exposed to a lot of really good people in that world and really good athletes, and that's been cool. I sort of fell into that a little bit. I was very fitness was really important in my previous life, and that sort of stayed with me. So I was always looking for an edge. And as I said at the start, I'm not particularly athletically gifted. I just kind of, I was got okay endurance, but other things were hard work for me. But I've had to really learn how to achieve those things for myself. And then I enjoyed that so much that I kind of figured that, well, why not try and share that with other people? And then that was when I realized that sometimes taking a hobby and turning it into a career is death. to that hobby. It can be.
All the shit stuff.
Accounting and God, I'm at this gym so much and I don't even get to train. And that's the part that I like. So that was tough for me. So I moved away from doing it in a full-time capacity just for my own sanity, but I still really enjoy working working with athletes, particularly younger athletes. I've got much better at it too, because I used to be very dogmatic about it and feel like, no, there's one way to do this and this is the way. And I've got much more open-minded as I've got older and been exposed to more things. And I think that's really important, particularly in that world, to maintain the trust of the people you're working with.
Yeah.
So I'm currently not actually training not doing any of that work right now. I'm just sort of, seeing how the cards fall over the coming months as to where I'm going to go next. I'm in a fortunate situation right now where I'm not having to work. I came home from overseas with a bit of money, and I've had some assistance from DVA due to some old injuries, Department of Veterans Affairs. I recently had surgery number 13, so I've had some orthopedic issues over the years. So
knees and backs and stuff.
Yeah, well, I've had 3 spine operations, so 2 on my lower back, and I've got an artificial disc in my neck, and then I've had both wrists, elbow, shoulders, knees, all those sorts of things.
Was that from like jumping out of planes or carrying swords?
A lot of them were sort of cumulative injuries over the years, and especially, certainly if I took the knowledge that I have now and implanted that in my 25-year-old self, I would have less injuries, because, when you're younger, and I'm sure you felt the same way, you just power through and you don't worry about all the other things, recovery and all that. So I certainly, paid the price for writing those checks in my younger days, and then my body wanting to cash them in later. So it seems to be more along those lines. I didn't really have any, traumas or anything like that. It was more sort of cumulative injuries, chronic injuries, and
getting very slowly out of bed these days post 40.
It does. It just takes a while to get things going, but yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is your foray into media, so hopefully there's a bright future, lots of stories to tell, lots of important lessons to pass on. So, Mr. Stephen Spencer, thank you very much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Stories Within Stories podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this show. For more stories like this, head to barefootmedia.co.